Hey everybody, this is Charlie from the band Anthrax, and today I'm going to be talking about my 11 favorite drummers. The first one I'm going to talk about is going to be Ringo Starr. When I was 2, 3 years old, the Beatles were all over my house. So of course, I always describe it as me being a sponge and just absorbing everything that my sisters would play. His playing back then to me was so rock and roll, and what he brought to those Beatles songs, I don't know, man. I don't think anyone else could have done it the way he did it, you know? He just had this great backbeat, and there's some songs where he plays better than others, but I felt Ringo's playing from like 63 to 66 was some of his best playing. Songs like Boys, songs like Rain, a song like Tomorrow Never Knows, that's Ringo at his best. Maybe he's not a hard rock metal drummer, but other hard rock metal drummers took something from Ringo, whether they realize it or not. I stole Ringo's Crash Ride stuff. When he plays, he doesn't play a ride like on the bell. He crash rides it, and like mostly every Anthrax song has that kind of wash on the cymbal sound. To me, I did it because I didn't want to always be on the hi-hat. I wanted it to be bigger and fill up more of that soundscape. My next one would be John Bonham. His style, his sound, it was almost like miking a jazz kit. It was just so big and open, but yet it was controlled. And whenever you see Zeppelin, footage of Zeppelin, wherever they're playing, that drum kit still sounds like John Bonham. I don't know what the hell it was, but he can play a wood kit. He can play a Vistalite acrylic kit. It sounds like John Bonham. His approach to those Zeppelin songs to this day makes other drummers kind of scratch their head and be like, how is he tight but yet so loose? Eddie Kramer produced our record Among the Living. When I was with Eddie Kramer, every day was like an interview. You know, Eddie, how did he do this? He would tell us in the song Black Dog, there's stick clicks throughout the whole song, but after the measure where the last thing they would hit would be the cymbals, Eddie would have to bring down the overhead mics because he was clicking. And you didn't want to hear the click throughout the whole song, but if you listen to that song, you'll still hear some clicks before he pulls it all down. And I always wondered, did you set up a click track with that song? He's like, nah, dude, it was all live. He just clicked it in. My next drummer is going to be Bill Ward. Bill Ward, I feel, doesn't get the recognition of other drummers from that era. But the thing about Bill Ward, he was the most, I felt, jazzy drummer playing real heavy metal. And before it was called heavy metal, like I remember Black Sabbath was called acid rock. And the things that Bill Ward played in those songs to me was so funky, so jazzy, and it just hit you right here when he would like break into another section of a song and Bill would just play and it was just like, it's so heavy and there's really not much to it. It's how he approached it, and always one of my favorite drummers to watch on stage. And as Sabbath got bigger, his kit got bigger too. Maybe he was a Keith Moon fan too, you know? I don't even know if he even hit some of those drums that were like the next row. He would have a row here and then he'd have more here. It was just so cool, you know? Like being a drummer and seeing that growing up, you always wanted to have a big kit like that. I did mention Keith Moon, and I can't include a list without including Keith Moon. I wouldn't say he necessarily kept the beat throughout the song, or the guitar player and the bass player followed him. They just kind of kind of went with it. And if you both met at the end of the measure, great. But for Keith, he was so all over the place. And another weird thing about Keith Moon, never had a hi-hat. There was never a hi-hat on his left side, which was so, wow, that's not traditional, you know? Instead, he had crashes here, and he would play those like a hi-hat. Usually the hi-hat is keeping time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. With Keith, he's just all over. He's playing fills in between the beats. But his style of playing was really kind of avant-garde. He didn't play like traditional drummer plays. But if you listen to Live at Leeds, some of the best drumming that you will hear is on that record. My other favorite drummer that I've always looked up to is Alex Van Halen. Whenever Van Halen would come out with a new record and do a new tour, Alex would have a new kit. And he was always expanding it. And I remember their first album, Alex had fire extinguishers on his kick drums, and I always remember thinking, why does he have fire extinguishers? Like, what's going to happen that he needs to have fire extinguishers there? Is his drum's going to catch on fire? Like, what's going on here? And when you go see Van Halen, it all kind of makes sense, like just the way they were. It was just like they were on fire. Every tour, Alex changed his kit. And then by the time they did Women and Children first, he had this white kit with these big, huge black hoses that one kick drum had a hose coming out of it and it went into the other kick drum. I was like, why? You know what I mean? And it really didn't matter because it just looked cool. He was just another one of those drummers. When you went to see Van Halen, Alex was going to do a drum solo. You didn't have time to leave and get a drink during the drum solo because the drum solo just kept you captivated. I never missed a Van Halen show when I was younger. And I would always leave that show inspired. I'm going to jump here and go to one of the greatest of all time would be Neil Peart. Not only was he a great drummer, but he was an amazing lyricist. Working on lyrics and knowing what the drums are going to be really helped those songs to grow, mature, whatever. And his lyrics were always so powerful. You know, when you read a song like Limelight, I till this day, I still relate to those lyrics in that song. His approach to drumming was very Keith Moon-like. He was a big Keith Moon fan. You could totally hear it in his playing, but with Neil, it was way more focused. When Neil took a fill, man, you felt that fill. And you learned that fill. And you learned it note for note. Like some of my drumming friends, we could sit here and just play Neil Peart stuff note for note because we knew it so well. Take a song like Tom Sawyer. If it's in a restaurant and we're out drinking or having something to eat and Tom Sawyer comes on and that part comes, you grab your fork, you grab your knife, and you just play the fill. And then you put your fork and knife down, you go back to your business. When that part comes on, you have to stop what you're doing. Next guy who I feel I may have taken a couple of licks here and there from is Terry Bozzio. Terry Bozzio was Frank Zappa's drummer back in the 70s, but Terry stood out more so than any other Frank Zappa drummer that he had. And I believe that Terry was a fucking metal drummer. He was one of the first drummers I heard doing fast double kick. Just his fills and just his approach and the way he attacked his drums back then always made me go, wow, I need to know more about this guy. And then after he played with Zappa, he joined this band called UK. When Terry joined UK, he rocked it out so much that if you listen to the UK live album Night After Night, the playing on that record is so far ahead for its time, it just blew me away. And I incorporated a lot of Terry's things in Anthrax. There's a fill in the song Indians that I took from Terry. Double kick China snare part that when I heard Terry do it, it just stayed with me. And then when we wrote the song Indians, there was a place that I could kind of slide that in. And I did. And to this day, when I do it, I think of Terry Bozzio. Next on the list, Clive Burr was the original Iron Maiden drummer. Those early Maiden albums were almost like had a punk element to it. And I think it was because of Clive driving it, you know, great foot. And just the way he thought. There's a song they have called Prisoner that he starts off, and he starts with him crashing on the china, and then he goes into this great beat. It's one of those songs, when you hear it, you feel like you've known this song forever. It was just so familiar to me. Those early Maiden records were driven by Clive Burr. Now I'm going to split this one in half because I'm going to go with Clive, and then I'm going to go with Nicko McBrain. When Nicko joined Maiden, completely changed the feel of the band. Nicko had this great kind of almost jazz-like kind of gallop to his playing. Great kick drum too. He had such a great foot, and the sound of his drums, man, it was just so awesome. Like, you know, when you change members and, oh man, I don't know if this is gonna work or not, but the transition from Clive to Nicko, it just works so well. Next, I'm going to do another split, if that's cool. And these are the drummers in Judas Priest. Les Binks, his playing was so great. His double kick stuff really influenced my double kick stuff. His one pattern in the song called Rock Forever, it was like I never heard something like that back then. And just his playing throughout Judas Priest was always so innovative and just really good for them. The next drummer that came in was this guy Dave Holland. I felt when Dave Holland came in the band, Priest completely got metal. The playing on British Steel, to this day when I hear it, I have to just sit back and just enjoy his approach to it and his sound. There's this drummer that I love, and I don't see him playing that much anymore. His name is Nick Barker. Nick Barker played on my favorite Dimmu Borgir record, Puritanical, blah, blah, blah. I always forget the name of that album. One of my favorite black metal albums of all time, solely because of his drum playing on that record. That dude was light years ahead of the drummers at the time. He was doing blast beats that were so fast and just so innovative, and it made me go, wow, are you listening to this right now? This dude is like fucking killing it. You know, back in 1985 when we did that SOD record, and it was like the first time people really heard a blast beat on a record, it evolved, but it took so many years later for someone to approach it in a way that, wow, that was perfect. You know, just musically speaking, the way he put it into those songs, that dude just blew me away, and I saw them so many times on that tour, and Nick was just a monster. My other drummer who influenced a lot of metal drummers too is going to be Lars. On those first 4 Metallica records, his playing on those records was so great, and just the way he thought in the song, again, just really innovative. The playing on Master of Puppets alone, there's that fill that he does in Battery that I still don't know the timing of it. And that fill was so great because you didn't expect it. I think that's what his playing does. You don't expect it, and then when it happens, you're like, whoa. Like that part in 1, the sextuplet part, it's so great. And it fits the song so well, and it's such an iconic part. Yeah, I always thought Lars was one of those drummers that, man, he's thinking for the song, and his parts that he puts in there, really clever. So that's going to close it out. This has been my top 11 hard rock metal drummers. Let me know what you think. What are your top 10 lists? And hopefully yours truly comes in on some of your lists because I really need it. All right, take care. Thank you.